Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, Tufts Health Plan, and Point 32 Health. I'm Trisha Silverman. I am your nutritionist for the next half hour that we have together. I'm a registered dietitian, a fitness instructor, a wellness coach, and an author. And let's just dive into the material. Lots to share. So first, I want to talk about stress and what that can lead to. And I do want to mention also, put your questions in the chat and I'm happy to answer them. I don't see anything right now in the Q&A or in the chat, but if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in there. Okay, let's chat about stress. So a little over 20 years ago, I started a new job and I got married and I moved all at the same time. It was a whole lot of stress. And I want to show you what I did when I would get home from work each day. So I'm going to make the screen a little bigger so you can see me here. And I want you to think about what's going wrong with this picture. All right, me coming home from work. Remember these old phones? All right, so can you put in the chat, what's wrong with that? There's some obvious things that are wrong. And then there are other that are less obvious. So can you put in the chat, what's going on there that we want to change? So again, put that in the chat. Yes, thank you, Sue. So you don't know how much you're eating if you don't put it in a bowl to portion. Exactly. I did not know. And I was eating a healthy cereal. Emotional eating, Amanda, yes, thank you. Oh, you all are so good. I see S. Belmore, eating without thinking, yes. And not paying attention to what you're doing or eating, right. Eating with that, so I was eating with lots of distractions, right? So thank you, Adriana. So what was distracting me? I was talking with my mouth full, exactly. Yes. What was distracting me away from the food? What was distracting me? So you saw the TV, right? So I had the TV on. I was eating and walking around. So when we eat mindfully, we want to, and let's see, I think it was Sue. I love that you put here, you didn't put in a bowl to portion. So you can have healthy cereal as a snack, but if you're eating too much of it, it can really work against your health plan because it can put you out of balance if you're eating all of this carb, which it did. I gained weight over that time because I was stressed and I was coming home doing this, eating this while on the phone, putting the TV on. One thing I didn't see, oh yeah, I think Amanda said emotional eating. I came home, I was so stressed, and rather than deal with the stress in a positive way, I was dealing with it through food. And it doesn't matter, it could be these, or it could be something healthy, it could be, a bunch of different things. If we're not eating mindfully, it can get us in trouble because, again, it can put our eating out of balance. We're not going to get the satisfaction out of the food. We're not going to feel that fullness if we're walking around. So I was walking while eating, the TV, the phone. And how many of you are in front of your computers eating? Or doom scrolling, as one of my clients says, doom scrolling through the phone and eating at the same time. We want to eat more mindfully, so we want to stop those distractions. Now, let me share again and let's see. Yes, phone and TV and Collins. Thank you for putting that in there. You all had great things. You observed a lot there. So give me a moment and we will share again. All right. Now, stress has been shown to increase cravings for carbs. And in that cereal, I was very stressed and I was grabbing this. And then I would go and eat a full dinner not too long after that. But this was total stress eating. My mind was checked out. I didn't realize how much I was having. And as Sue said, portioning it out would have been a great idea. Now, Dr. Oz, years ago in his first book that made him famous, I remember reading that he said the size of your belly indicates the size of your stress. I was so stressed out during that time doing this emotional eating that I gained weight very, very quickly from mindless eating. It was really attributed right to that. So that's why I love talking about mindful eating, because that's what I choose to do now. And when I checked in and became more mindful, the weight came off. And I have, other stories to share as we go through today about mindful eating. Okay. So many people turn to food and comfort food to deal with their stress. So think about, what's that type of, you turn to a certain type of food when you're stressed out. We want to get a hold on our stress so that we're not turning to food. And we're going to have lots of ideas today. And I want you to take what you can and just, and leave the rest. All right, let me move along. And let's talk about alternatives to food when dealing with stress. So think about 3 ways of changing your habits. So something brought you here today and something resonated with you. So the first way to think about changing is just being more mindful, tuning in more and just observing what's going on. Sometimes before we change things, we need to really take a look, take a step back and look at what's going on. How much are you emotionally eating? When are you doing it? On what types of food? So just observing is a wonderful step in the right direction. And then, another choice for making change and acquiring new eating habits, taking small steps, baby steps to acquiring new habits. If you do one new thing as a result of being here today, that's a great baby step, and it can have huge results. So one result I wanted to share with you is I was at a workplace teaching an 8-week program prior to the pandemic. It was a weight management program. And it was a few weeks in, and one guy came in and he said to me, he was laughing. And I said, what's so funny? What's going on? And he said, I lost 4 pounds this week. I said, how'd you do it? What went on? He said, I did one thing. I stopped eating with the TV. 4 pounds. And usually you see kind of dramatic weight loss that first or second week when people are on a program. This was actually several weeks in, but he made that one baby step, that one change. So what could that one thing be for you? So if you take one takeaway, that made your investment in time here today worth it. And then there's number 3, sweeping change. When people jump right in, they fully start a new habit or a bunch of new habits right away. I've seen that too, being a dietitian for, many, many years now, well over 20 years now. And one item comes to mind. There was a man at a workplace in Wellesley, and I went to his workplace. I did a seminar on healthy eating, and I went back a few months later, and he said, I did every single thing you mentioned in your talk, and all my stomach issues went away. And that always stands out to me as someone who just made sweeping change, changed just everything. And another person comes to mind who went from sedentary to moving over 300 minutes per week, getting brisk exercise, brisk walking, from 0 minutes per week to over 300 minutes per week, and also changed eating habits too, and has been consistently losing weight over several months' time from all these sweeping change items. So think about, for you, Do you just need to be more mindful? Is now the time to just be more mindful and observe what's going on? Or are you ready to take one small step or a few small steps? Or is this your year of health, like Rebel Wilson back in 2020? You know, the actress, Rebel Wilson. So she decided that was a year of health. She lost over 60 pounds. And one of the things that she did was improved her exercise, improved her fitness, and she also journaled. So we're going to talk more about journaling in a few moments. All right. So let's talk about some mindful techniques. Many people turn to food to kind of check out when they're stressing out, not feeling good. So we want to think about what are ways we can check back in. One of those ways is turning your awareness to sensations in your body. So when we look at number 2, which is sense awareness, we're going to go through these items, and I want you to think about, for you right now, checking in with your body. Where are your hands right now? Are they in your lap? Are they in the air? Are they really tight-fisted? Or are they relaxed? Are they cold? So tune into your body. Now tune into any smells around you. If there's nothing to smell, tune in. Look at that apple. When you cut a crisp apple, that smell. Right now, near me, there's a banana. Smells really, really good. So when we're checking out with food, we want to think about checking back into our body. We don't want to zone out with food. That's where we tend to eat too much, and it can make us really not feel too great physically and emotionally when we do that. So when we feel like we're starting to check out, check back in. So can you name one smell? What are 2 sounds that you hear? Right now, I hear my refrigerator, and I can hear some traffic outside. What do you hear? What are 3 sensations you have? I'm standing right now and I can feel my feet standing, and now my ankles just cracked because I was thinking about my feet. And another sensation I have is I feel the hair on my face, and I'm clasping my hands. I can feel my hands. So what are 3 sensations for you? What are 4 colors that you see? Maybe you see the rainbow behind me, or that apple on the screen. What other colors are in your environment? I see the green outside, lots of greenery. The green comes first, then a lot of flowers come in May. Some flowers out there. Maybe you have lots of flowers right now. So 4 colors. And then what are 5 sights? So I see the outside. I have woods behind me out of one set of windows. I see the neighbor's house. That's another sight. I see my favorite basil plant. That's another sight. I love this. And ooh, that smells good. So being mindful, it's not just being aware of the present moment, but it can be tuning into your different senses. So what sights do you see around you? All right, let's move along. Let's think about, what is your urge to eat trying to tell you? We want to widen the gap between that urge to eat and when you actually eat. Try just a minute or a few minutes. And question, is it physical or emotional hunger? Physical hunger comes on gradually. Emotional hunger comes on more quickly. Physical hunger is felt in between your belly button and your rib area. You may feel hunger pains. You may get a headache when you're physically hungry. Emotional hunger is very fast, and it may be from you see a food, oh, and now you want Oreos. So that's more, emotional hunger. Now, if we can widen that gap between when we feel that urge to eat and eating, it can really help us out to start being more curious and question, what's going on? Am I really hungry? Well, I just ate a half an hour ago, so you're probably not hungry. There's something else going on. What is it? Are you stressed? Maybe you can take a small bite out of whatever's stressing you out. Are you nervous? Maybe you can do a meditation. I'll show you a great app in a little bit. And then, are you lonely? Maybe you can call up a friend. Are you bored? Maybe you can do a crossword puzzle or start a new project or make a list of new things that you want to try. So that urge to eat will lose its grip over time if it isn't true hunger. So when you start questioning things, you're giving yourself some time. And then if you start something, let's say you were stressed about, maybe it's a few weeks ago and it was your taxes. And if you start working on them, that can help to take some of that stress away. And then you may notice, oh, I really wasn't hungry. And then I want you to think about this. Emotional eaters commonly have trouble letting go of guilt from eating too much and letting go of guilt from other things as well. So I think back to my first meditation teacher who taught me about putting your thoughts on a cloud and letting them float away. So do you have guilt? Are you thinking too much? And you may want to think about recognizing the thought and then releasing it. So recognizing maybe that thought of I want to eat, and then releasing it by saying, I just ate, let's move on. Oh, well, and then put it on a cloud or put it in an imaginary river and let it float away. So that can really work well with worrying thoughts, with stress, just letting yourself put that stress, compartmentalizing it, putting it in a box, setting it on the river, and letting it go. Now, one of the behavior change techniques that's thoughtful and that can really help out is the journaling I mentioned earlier. It's been clinically proven to help express emotions and deal with problems. It can help you get your feelings out rather than stuffing them down. The other thing we can do is mindful worry. So give yourself permission and time to worry, but without the food. So if you're worrying with food, what you want to do is mindfully eat, tune in, and tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to worry later. At 8 p.m., I'll give myself the time to worry then. Because most of the time, worrying can't help solve the problems, right? But thinking through the problems can be helpful. And maybe you set that time aside for later. If you're zoning out with food, can you zone out without food? So that might be flipping through magazines, TV channels, doing origami or Sudoku. There are free e-magazines through your library. When I want to zone out, one of the things I like to do, I like to hear about celebrity news. So Page 6. Or TMZ, I'll look up those sites and I just zone out looking through the pictures of all and the storylines of all the celebrities. So how can you zone out without food? All right. And let me just check and see if you have anything in the chat. All right. No questions or comments. So I'm going to keep moving along. And just remember, for you, what's that one thing that's going to work for you? So let's keep moving along. Now, positive affirmations can be really helpful. So these can be things like, I am strong, I am creative, I am caring, I am smart, I can do this. If you write these down and then put them on your mirror, little sticky notes, it's a great reminder that I can do this. I can get through it. You know, this will be easy for me. Just things that resonate with you. You can look up, Louise Hay has positive affirmations. She has, I think it's 101 positive affirmations. If you look up Louise Hay affirmations, and she's passed on now, but she is one of these positive thinking gurus, and she had a collection of positive affirmations. So you may want to look her up. Now, think about making realistic expectations. So if you say, I will never mindlessly eat again, it may set you up for failure. Rather, we can say, you know, I'm going to work on mindless eating, and I'm going to eat mindfully most of the time. That may help you so that if you do slip up and there's a mindless eating episode, you don't feel bad about it, because that's normal. And another thing I hear people say is, I will never eat ice cream again. And it sets them up for failure rather than saying, ice cream may be a food that doesn't work for me. And, I'll limit that, but I can have it once in a while. And that may just make it easier for you to deal with some foods that may be problematic for you. Another thing I hear about, and especially in January, I'm going to exercise every day. How about I will exercise 5 days a week for 1 hour or for 30 minutes and more days if possible. So just different ways of thinking that can set you up for success. And then if you have a little slip up, look at it as a growth opportunity, a learning opportunity, rather than feeling bad about it. Now, here are some things we can think about, some calming and relaxing sensations. So rather than looking for food to help us emotionally, other things can be helpful. Sunlight, sipping hot unsweetened tea like chamomile tea. Another one that I like is Mighty Leaf brand. This is an African nectar tea, really delicious. What about a hot or cold compress or a bath? What feels better for you, hot or cold? I like warm. I like feeling warm. So for me, wrapping myself in a blanket can feel good. Self-compassion or soothing touch, that's where you squeeze an arm or put a hand over your heart, a self-hug. These feelings can feel really good, and it can elicit oxytocin, which is a feel-good chemical, like when a mom holds the baby, because your body doesn't know whether it's someone else hugging you or you hugging yourself. So go ahead right now. Feel free to give yourself a nice hug or a little arm squeeze. And then a small productive cleaning project can work really well. So for instance, one drawer, rather than saying I'm going to clean out my whole house or my whole basement, I'm going to do one stack of papers today. It can make you feel great when you achieve that. So then you can go on to achieve other things. Now, there's a great book called Emotion Picture Magic, and it's a movie lover's guide to healing and transformation. So you can find movies that are uplifting and healing and transformative. And then listening to classical music, there's research about this, that classical or enjoyable music after a stressor can reduce negative feelings compared to listening to heavy metal music. Now, what I'm going to say, because I'm from the 80s generation, if heavy metal music is enjoyable to you, by all means, do that. But there is research on, again, classical music, that it may be helpful to reduce negative feelings. Gardening can be helpful. Now, if you think about gardening, too much or not enough water can be, hurtful to the plants, just like eating too much or too little food. So you want to find for you, what's that sweet spot where you feed yourself and nourish yourself, but it's not too much where you feel overly full or stuffed. And then another thing we can do for soothing support, connect with family and friends, join new groups. Pet therapy is another thing that can be great. Petting an animal can feel very soothing. Now, one of the books that I think you'll like, and I have this listed at the end, is 50 Ways to Soothe Yourself Without Food. It's by Dr. Susan Albers. And her book has been really helpful, and some of the ideas today I learned about in her book and a few of the other books I'll share as we wrap up in a few moments. So let's talk about some specific strategies to say no to mindless eating. So think about, what are your mindless eating rituals? Maybe you need to journal about it and break them down. So remove those distractions. If you're eating and on the phone or working on your computer, try to make eating just happen in one room, your kitchen. And that can help you from combining food with other items. Because sometimes if we eat with the TV, we finish when the bag is empty or when the show is over, rather than tuning into our own sensations of hunger and fullness. So we want to pay attention to not only the what are we eating, but also the how are we eating. We want to keep our portions small, especially if we're looking for weight management. Savor every bite. Be aware of each bite. and chew your food thoroughly. In the book here called Mindless Eating by Jan Chosen Bays, I learned about Horace Fletcher. In the early 1900s, he found by chewing his food at least 32 times each bite, he lost weight. So there were thousands of people that started to follow him that also found that they could lose weight by chewing their food more. By chewing your food more, you help to digest it better, and it also gives you a lot of mouth satisfaction that you miss if we don't chew our food well. Now, 32 times each bite may be too much, but just look and see how many times you chew each bite. When I do this when we're live, in person, I found many people just 2 or 3 or 8 or 9 bites. Maybe you can work it up to 15 or 20 or 32 like Horace Fletcher. Think about doing a moment of silence before eating, putting your fork down between bites. Don't cut up everything at once because then it's easy to shovel it all in. So we want to slow down the experience and make it a beautiful experience. You can see in the background there, that's a booth I have, and I always wanted to have like a booth type of seating area in my house, and that looks out into the woods and a garden outside, and it's a very relaxing environment. So can you make your environment more conducive to just enjoying the eating experience? Think of taking sips of your beverage every few bites, putting your hands down and taking a deep breath during the eating experience to help slow it down, enjoying the food, the atmosphere, and the company, and try to take over 20 minutes to consume your meal. Some other behaviors that we haven't mentioned yet, taking visual cues out of the kitchen. So putting your food away so it's not staring at you, inviting you to eat it. Keeping food records can be helpful. And this way we can figure out what we're doing and what maybe we want to work on. Sometimes for some people saying, you know what, dinner will be after dinner, I'm going to stop eating and that's it for the night. That works for some people. Maybe that can work. And then listen to your body. And when you feel physically hungry, we want to eat. We don't want to wait until we're ravenous. Then we make poor decisions. But when you start feeling hunger and that rumbling or a headache, or you just start feeling it come on, it's a good time to eat. And then think about stopping when you're gently satisfied. And that's when there's still little room left in your belly. In Okinawa, they call this harahachi bu, and that's eating till you're only 80% full. And Okinawa is an area of Japan known for longevity, and people tend to be, the elders there, really healthy. And one of the things they practice is that harahachi bu, stopping when they're gently satisfied. And then we want to think about if we have any trigger food or any things that trigger us to eat too much. So, for some people, maybe certain foods like chocolate, if it's milk chocolate, maybe dark chocolate is better for you, or not keeping a lot of chocolate around the house, but allowing yourself to have it sometimes. And then waiting too long to eat can be problematic. We spoke about the stress and emotions, so we can get those controlled, and meditation and yoga are really great for that. And I'll show you coming up as we wrap up my favorite meditation site. And then don't go to the supermarket hungry. I know a lot of you know that, but are you practicing it? Shop with the list that can help you from picking up those impulse buys, preventing against those buys. And then make fruits and vegetables your priority and build meals and snacks around them. So I wanted to end with just sharing about how yoga may have an impact and effect on your appetite hormones, helping you to control your appetite better. And the research I read shows that it's over the long term of doing yoga that can have an impact on appetite. And then meditation can certainly help to have you become more mindful. And I love the Insight Timer app, my favorite app. So if you want more motivation, you can put that word motivation into the app and it'll come up with meditations, guided meditations, if you want to do those kinds, that can just have you sit there and walk you through how to breathe and items to think about that can help you to feel more motivated. Or maybe you want to de-stress. You could put the word stress in there, and meditations to help you deal with stress will come up. And then exercise is such a great way to help you deal with stress, can help you become more mindful. Going outdoors can really give you a nice boost from the sunlight, from being close to trees. There's evidence that Shinrin Yoku, which is Japanese, it's a term for Japanese forest bathing, but there's research being near trees and near the compounds that they emit into the air can make us feel really good, may help you to heal faster when you're having an illness, and can improve our mood. Exercising can improve creativity, so it can make you to feel really good, so that it's another thing you can do instead of turning to food to deal with stress. All right, as we wrap up, these are some of the books that I think would be really helpful and that you would enjoy. And let me check the chat again, see if you have, and I don't see any questions there. And I don't see any in the Q&A, but I'm happy to stay on another minute or two if you do have any questions. One of the things that I want you to think about is, what's the one thing that you can do to be more mindful, to eat more mindfully, or to handle your stress? So what's that one thing? You've spent a whole half hour here. What's one thing you can do? And remember, one little thing can have huge results in the short or long term. So what's the one thing for you? And again, I don't see anything in the chat, but I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us. I hope you join us again for a future webinar. And I wish you a happy, healthful, and mindful rest of your day. Thank you on behalf of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.